everybody, this is 8-Bit Flashback, and I just got done with my latest custom build, which is actually more of a mod. This is the PlayStation TV Classic Edition, and this is what Sony should have done in the first place. So the PlayStation Classic is becoming a disappointment to many out there, including myself. It seems to be a very limited system with a bad gaming lineup, although I still would be buying one for review and hacking purposes because that's what I do. Now here's what Sony should have done. They should have just re-released the PS TV in the form of a miniature PlayStation like this, with games built in and the option to add more if you want to. And games like Crash Bandicoot, Spyro, and Tomb Raider should just be included. The PS TV was released back in 2013, and from everything I've seen and read, the PS TV is far more advanced than the PlayStation Classic. First off, the PS TV has internet capabilities, so you can access the PlayStation Store, browse the web, watch movies, and you can even stream games from your PS4 and play them on the PS TV. All this is stuff you can't do on the PlayStation Classic. And let's not forget that you can also play PS Vita games because this is basically a PS Vita without the screen. So I decided to do what Sony wouldn't and just made a new case for my PS TV to resemble a mini PlayStation. And this is a 3D printed case, so it does have some minor imperfections, but overall I think it turned out well. It's now 2018, almost 2019, and I'm absolutely blown away that something from 2013 seems to be far superior. It's even designed to work with wireless DualShock 3 controllers. Now I know PlayStation didn't originally come with DualShock controllers, but I'm sure people could live being stuck with a DualShock 3. And I would even say that the user interface is better. This is what the main menu looks like on the PS Classic. A little boring. And this is the main menu on the PS TV, which can be customized with themes and backgrounds. And I actually have two PSN accounts, one in the US and one in France, because I can get different selections of games. Now I'm not saying the user interface on the PS TV is amazing, but it's definitely better. And speaking of amazing, I recently picked up a PS4 Spider-Man bundle for $1.99, and I decided to test out streaming on my PS TV. And surprisingly, it works pretty good, although the max resolution on the PS TV is only 720p, but that is the same as the PlayStation Classic. And I printed this case at about a 40% scale, so it's going to be slightly smaller than the official PlayStation Classic. I believe that's going to be at about a 45% scale. And for anyone out there who does have a 3D printer that's looking to print one of these themselves, I will be providing these files on Thingiverse, but they're not quite ready yet. But when they are, I'll make sure to post a link down below. So this is what the PS TV looks like without the new case. It's a little boring, and I designed this case so that the PS TV can slide right into it with just one modification, and I'll show you that here in just a few. So the PS TV slides into the case just like this, and then to secure it, I got some clips that go on the sides of it, and these actually will attach with just some small screws. So I tried to keep this a pretty simplistic design, and it's actually printed in just one piece with a hollow center. And the only mod that I did to the PS TV itself was removing the bottom part of the case. It's pretty simple to do, it just pops off with a small screwdriver, but by doing this that gives it better ventilation because I got some vents that are already in the bottom of my new case, so that keeps everything nice and cool. And I also have an access hole that's on the side of the case, that way if I want to play some PlayStation Vita cartridges, I can. Now I'm not trying to tell anyone to go out and buy a PS TV, I'm just doing this for entertainment purposes. I got my PS TV for $55, which is pretty cheap. Then I invested another $35 for the games on my US account, and an additional $30 on my France account, so I did have to throw down some money. But just think, if Sony released something similar with a really nice case with a price tag at $99, and 15 decent built-in games, along with $25 in PSN credit so you could pick the remaining games you want, that would be a much better product. And here's a look at the original PlayStation games I have on my US account. I've got Oddworld, Gex, Rayman, all the Tomb Raiders 1, 2, and 3, and Revelations, and Metal Gear Solid VR Missions. And I lucked out with those Tomb Raider games because I got them on sale. I think I got them all for about 89 cents except for Tomb Raider 1, and I got that for $1.50. And I think now they're all back to about $5.99 a piece. And there's all kinds of games that work on the PS TV, such as PS Vita games, PSP games, PSP Go games, but for today I'm just going to concentrate on original PlayStation games. And for the original PlayStation games, they have been formatted to work with the built-in PSP emulator on the PS TV. And I should mention, there is nowhere near a full library of original PlayStation titles on here, but there's still a decent variety and amount to choose from. And you can even hack these things and add as many games as you want. but I'm not going to cover that in this video. Okay, let's test out a game. Let's try Tomb Raider 3. And notice when I load the game, I get a message talking about the PSP system, and that's because it is converted to a PSP format, even though it's an original PlayStation game. As far as the gameplay goes, I don't see any issues. It looks right, it sounds right, and it seems to play right. Now I'd have to actually compare this on the original PlayStation side by side probably to see the difference, but as far as I can tell, it seems to be playing pretty good. Okay, it's time to check out my PSN France account, and I've got the Crash Collection 1, 2, and 3, along with Crash Team Racing. Then I got Spyro the Dragon Trilogy as well. And as far as Crash and Spyro goes, they are not available in the US for PSTV. Also got some Tekken, Ridge Racer, and Metal Gear Solid, along with Driver, Destruction Derby, Legacy of Kain, G-Police, and Siphon Filter. And most of these games still use English for the voices, but there is a few that don't, such as Metal Gear Solid and Legacy of Kain, so it makes that gameplay a little interesting. And when I access the PlayStation Store, I get a mixture of French and English language, so I can still navigate somewhat through the menus, but it does get a little tricky. And as far as the game selection goes, I would say that my France account has a way better selection of original PlayStation titles. Now that's been another big controversy with the PlayStation Classic, because half of the titles seem to be in a PAL format, which would be the same as what I'm playing right now. The PAL titles will be running at 50Hz instead of 60Hz, which is what we're used to here in the US. Which can cause some slowdown with the frames per second, but with a lot of the games you're probably never going to notice. Like with this game, I can't really tell, but with other games like Tekken 3, you might see a big difference. And when the PlayStation Classic comes out, I will be doing some side-by-side comparisons with US ROMs versus PAL ROMs, just to show you that exact difference. Now I'm going to try out some Metal Gear Solid, and it is very, very strange when I hear a different language because I know this game so well. And if I didn't know this game so well, I'd probably have a very hard time playing it because even the subtitles are in a different language. But on the plus side, I am getting better with my French. And here's Spyro the Dragon, and I got the entire trilogy for about $11.50. And this is one of those games that should just be a must-have for the PlayStation Classic, along with Crash Bandicoot and Gran Turismo. Those are 3 different titles that should be on there. No questions asked, it should just be that way, but for some reason, it's not. I'm really hoping the PlayStation Classic is going to be better than we all think, but from everything I've heard and seen, it's not off to a good start. The one thing that might save it is if it's easily hackable to where we can add the games we want, a lot like the SNES and NES Classic. That, I believe, will make or break the console. Maybe that's why they chose to use the PSP Emulator, so it's easy to hack, and at the same time, they don't compromise their own software. Or maybe they're just being lazy and they're throwing together a sloppy console for a fast cash grab, which unfortunately is the more likely out of the two. And once I do get my PlayStation Classic, I will be doing some screen capturing, showing some side-by-side differences between PlayStation TV and the Classic. And I'm also going to be comparing it to Raspberry Pi 3 and the Odroid XG4 with RetroPie, showing the differences as well. And while I'm at it, my Super Nintendo Classic Edition, which is hacked, can play PlayStation games, so I might as well check that as well. Okay, it's time for me to go, but if you want to stick around, you can. I will be showing gameplay from a few different titles. And if you liked that video, please click that like button, and don't forget to subscribe. And have yourself a great day, and I'll see you next time.